Hello, and welcome to Melody's Monthly Messages. And this April, I've got a special edition for you. It's about April Fool's voices. And in April Fools, they always say, oh, who's the biggest fool at last? Well, I'm going to talk about how we are when we listen to the April Fool messages of false information and hoaxes and negative lies about our own self-worth and who we are. Now, they think April Fools sort of started maybe back in the Roman days. It was in full flow by the 1770s in Europe, and people used to put a tail and pin it in people's coats. Even in 1987, the BBC put out a broadcast for April Fools saying that the Swiss were growing spaghetti on trees, and people believed it. And that's why we're fools, because we believe the April Fool voices. And these voices come from our past. They're very young parts of ourselves. And they start to tell us these amazing lies, such as, you're not worthy. No matter what you do, it's not going to work out. Nobody really cares for you. No one can ever meet your needs. Oh, stop complaining. Nobody cares. You're all alone in the universe. I mean, these lies, and in all fairness, we come by them quite honestly. They start when we're very young, and people who have had a lot of difficulties growing up, and that can include absent parents, neglectful parents as a result of mental illness, substance abuse. Maybe they're traveling or just working too hard to be there for us. And what happens is we start to listen to these messages that tell us from them, I don't have time for you. I can't meet your needs. And it might be done quite lovingly, but when you're 3 or 5 years old, that's not going to work. You don't matter. Can you be quiet? Stop crying. Again, you're too needy. And no matter what you do, it's always a mess. What were you thinking? You're stupid. And of course, the worst one of all is, I wish you hadn't been born. And I have had clients whose parents have told them that. Very, very sad. So what children do with these painful messages is they try to make sense of them. Like, it doesn't make sense to them that a parent wouldn't love them, so it must be them. They must be at fault in these circumstances. And the part of the brain, the reason they do that is they're so young. The emotional part of the brain that acts on instincts and keeping them safe and protected or surviving, even, it's much more basic than that, is running the show and trying to come up with reasons just so they can get through the day. Like, if my parents aren't there, I better learn at 4 years old to cook for myself. The thinking part of the brain, which assesses truths and is problem solving, the thinking part of the brain doesn't even fully form until we're in our mid to late 20s. So the sad thing is we internalize our pain and we come up with these false reasons of why awful things are happening, and we carry them into our adulthood. And sometimes it's so painful that we often even turn to substances to numb ourselves or escape, or even risky behaviors. Remember, these were the best ideas that we could come up with from 3 to 5. And they really are trying to protect us, but they no longer work for us as adults. They're very painful to hold. And so what do we do? How do we acknowledge and be aware of these voices, without feeling guilty that they exist or even beating ourselves up further? And there's some very simple steps. First, acknowledge they exist. Acknowledge the normalcy of them, that they came from an honest place of pain. Acknowledge and appreciate that they were doing the best they could for that small brain power that they could come up with any kind of making sense of these tragedies around themselves. And we can tell them the things that we really wanted to hear for ourselves. We tell them, it's okay, I'm here. It's okay, you don't have to worry. I'm here to protect you and keep you safe. And I want to thank you for trying so hard to care for me. And this is where the compassion starts for these April Fool's voices. And I am sorry you had to work so hard. And I know this is not easy. I just sort of say this and it's not easy. And that's why we need this support of someone around us, whether it's a friend or a spiritual guide or a therapist. And as we do this, it will start to allow us to release and free those voices. They're not bad voices. And they're certainly not based, these April Fool's voices are not based on truths, just like the spaghetti growing on the tree. And so I want you to try doing this maybe for one or 2 minutes a day, twice a day, and just say, thank you, voices. I don't need you anymore. I'm running the show, and if I can't, I will seek out some support and help. You're not alone, because that's the worst thing for a child, is to have that attachment wound of feeling they're alone and no one is there and they're lost alone in the world. So this April, let's recognize and work on freeing our April Fool's voices from our past traumas through acknowledging them and sending them care. Remember, you are a miracle. You survived this. You're still here. And hopefully watching my movies, you're still here. And you can now treat yourself with self-love, self-compassion, and self-care. So bless you all. And I look forward to meeting and speaking with you in May.